Good evening. Welcome to Chatham Township Committee meeting, May 9th, 2019. Thank you. Now I'm calling this meeting to order. Greg, the adequate notice was given.
Yes, adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. Notice was given in both the Chatham Courier and the Morris County Daily Record on January 4th, 2019. Notice was posted on the bulletin board in the main hallway of the municipal building on January 4th, 2019. And notice was filed with the Township Clerk on January 4th, 2019.
Thank you, Greg. And now we're going to do a flag salute, and I am going to invite our 32 years veteran of DPW employee, and we're going to talk about him tonight. And I'm going to invite him to lead us with Pledge of Allegiance, Terry Hopkins.
This thing on? Okay. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag for which States of America, for which the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Terry. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Ness?
Here.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Here.
Mr. Ritter said he'll be late. Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Here.
Mayor Selin?
Here. Okay, great. Thank you. And also, what I would like to do is just to do a quick moment of silence for those who lost their lives fighting for our country in our borders or outside of borders. And please do a very quick moment of silence for them. Thank you. And approval of the agenda. So we have the agenda, and I would like to see if I have a motion to approve the agenda as is.
So moved.
Anybody second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. So we have the agenda approved. And now we're back to our friend from DPW for 32 years, and we have a resolution for his honor, and you need to bear with me for next 5 minutes, and I'm going to read that resolution for you. Resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, honoring Terrence Hopkins. Whereas, Terry Hopkins began his career with the Township of Chatham 32 years ago on July 20, 1987. And whereas Terry spent his entire career in the water pollution control plant and over the years mastered all areas of operations and machinery. And whereas Terry has been called the Iron Person of Chatham due to his strong physical constitution, which allowed him to show up for work every day for 20 years without taking a sick day. And whereas on December 1st, 1997, Terry was recognized and honored by the Chatham Township Police Department for assisting officers in their search for a missing person on November 3rd, 1997. Terry located the individual and thus assured their safety and helped provide peace of mind to the family. And whereas in March 2000, a key piece of machinery malfunctioned, which caused the waste water treatment plant to go offline. And whereas Terry did not panic, he took the initiative and leadership in locating parts to make the necessary repairs. This saved Chatham taxpayers significant money, brought the plant back online, and prevented fines from the state. Whereas on December 18, 2001, Terry's foreman and superintendent both wrote, if any person should receive a 10, it is Terry. And whereas on December 17, 2003, Terry's foreman and superintendent both wrote, Terry is dependable, loyal, and always shows concern for the township. And whereas Terry has contributed his knowledge, expertise, and wisdom to benefit the community. ensure the safety of his co-workers while improving the quality of life in the Township of Chatham. And whereas Terry retired on Tuesday, April 30th of 2019 and officially became a man of leisure on Wednesday, May 1st, 2019. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham honors and recognizes Terry Hopkins for his dedicated, devoted service and calls upon the citizens of Chatham Township to join in expressing our heartfelt gratitude and best wishes to him as he enters the next chapter of his life. Congratulations.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, committee. Thanks, DPW, wastewater treatment plant. Just want to thank you. That's it. I'm not good with speeches.
Terry, I'm going to present this to you, and maybe we'll have a photo together. Is that appropriate? Or?
Yeah, perhaps the whole
All
township.
together, yeah. We should
Yeah.
do it all together.
Yeah, and then we'll get a picture with Mike, Matt, and with Rich, and,
Or to the right.
all right. Mayor and committee members, if I may, Terry's name is up on the plaque. There's an Iron Man plaque or an Iron Person plaque out in the hall. And he's out there for 1995 and 1996. All right, on three. 1, 2, 3. All right. Good. Very good. All right.
And maybe one with Rich and the folks over there from DPW. Please come over here. All together. Or maybe just you.
Cal Ripken of water.
All together?
Oh, Everybody.
Everybody.
I didn't see him.
Come next to me.
All right.
He'd have to put on with you for years.
All right.
There we go.
All right.
I know what you meant.
Okay, I've got everybody in there. 1, 2. Wow, this is good for your core. All right, very good. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Congratulations. Good work.
Congratulations.
Gone fishing. That's what she's like. Gone fishing. That's the sign on the door now, right?
So I'll send out a series of pictures to you in the morning. Yes.
Your reading is improving, right? It should. All right. We need to vote here. All right. Okay. Now, before we move on to the next item, we would like to obviously need to move, vote on that resolution. So it's valid and legit. Right now, it's not legit yet, so we have to vote on it. So let's see if you have the votes. All right. You may not have the votes. All right. Okay. So, and do I have a motion to approve the resolution I just read?
So moved.
Anybody second it?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes, and with all best wishes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Salin?
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations, Terry.
Congratulations again.
Touch and go there,
All right, now we have two reports on the agenda, and I'm going to, number one is 2018 audit, and the other one is bond sale presentation. Maybe Bob can go over with us, just give us some feedback and background information on these.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. The first item on the agenda, the first report is the 2018 audit report. The Township Committee has a bound copy of the audit report for its review. There will be a resolution on the next agenda just saying that the Township Committee has received it, and if you'll be able to vote on that. That's an annual resolution. If the Township Committee has any questions over the next month, by all means, feel free to contact CFO King or myself. The audit's about 165 pages. There's lots of good information in here. One of the pieces of information that I found interesting was that we now receive more revenue from Verizon than we do from Comcast when it comes to revenue from our cable providers. So once the Township Committee has the opportunity to review the audit, then it'll be posted on our website. I am pleased to report there is one audit finding for the township. We had 4 audit findings previously, but we're down to one, and that just shows the competency of all of our staff that work on the financial side of the house. And that one audit finding for this year relates to segregation of duties, and the segregation of duties basically is something that the state requires, but they don't fund it. So the township runs a very lean ship, and that's part of the reason why we have our AAA credit rating. But it's also means that we cannot segregate some of the duties in the treasury functions that the state is recommending. So this will probably be an audit finding in the future, but we're going to try and bundle at least part of this function with another job function that we have, and we'll see if we're able to do that. But we have had discussions about a public information officer or something to that effect, and we'll see if the duties can be folded in so we can get rid of this audit function or this audit finding. So that's the report on the 2018 audit. Feel free to ask any questions that you may have. The second report has to do with our bond sale, and the bond sale was for $1,625,000, and you have a report from CFO King about that. There's also a fairly large document that was in your mail related to the bond sale. The packet looks like this. There's a letter from our bond counsel, Robert and McCarthy, and it outlines it gives a complete breakdown of the bond sale, and that was one of the items that had been asked for by the governing body. The township had projected that the interest rate on this bond offering would be approximately 2.5%, but because of our AAA credit rating, the actual winning bid came in net at 1.93%. So we were able to outperform the expectations that our auditors and also our bond counsel had. And again, this is just a direct result of good fiduciary responsibilities, as well as the affirmation of our AAA credit rating, because we are one of only 49 communities in the state of New Jersey that has a AAA bond rating, and people fly to credit, people fly to quality. So this is an example of that. So that's the report on the bond presentation, and if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to ask.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bob. Before I go to Albert or John, I'm going to go back to the committee members if they have any reports. Karen, do you have anything?
Thank you very much. Yes, actually, I would like to congratulate the Chatham Township Volunteer Fire Department for their newest member, Pat Seatek. We're very happy to have him aboard. We're very happy for all of our Chatham Township Fire Department and Green Village Volunteer Fire Department firefighters. We wouldn't be such a strong community if it weren't for these fellas and ladies and gentlemen who support them as well. So congratulations to Pat and congratulations to both of the fire departments. Our Senior Citizens Senior Resource Center is so happy to announce that their senior shred event was, as usual, a resounding success, thanks to all who came out. I'm happy to extend the thanks and the news that they netted about $5,000 once again, just for a morning's work, and we know that a lot of folks save their shreddable material in the garage for weeks and months in anticipation of that event twice a year. So look for the next one coming up in October. I noted with great interest and great disappointment the fact that Mr. Hoffman at our last meeting had to use your valuable time to talk about some of the poor treatment of our public facilities here. We just extolled the virtues of our steady and dedicated WPC treatment folks and the dedication that they have to protecting our very, very valuable equipment. I think you and I discussed, as well as CFO Deborah King confirmed, our water treatment facilities are a $3 million a year project for Chatham Township. And when you flush the toilet, folks, what happens in Chatham Township stays in Chatham Township. We actually maintain the water treatment facilities because it's extremely beneficial financially to us, but it takes a great deal of care and diligence. And when Administrator Hoffman had to go through the list of the things that our WPC treatment folks are pulling out of the system, and it's not only the gold bracelet that I flushed down the toilet in 1997, it's golf balls, t-shirts, syringes, adult diapers, child diapers, coins, pens, pencils, paper clips. They found a bowling ball in one of our manholes, the number of other toys and things that get flushed down the toilet, drug paraphernalia, rocks, stones, medications, people throwing their medications in the containers, down the toilet, into the sewers, the storm drains. These folks work so diligently to make sure that this investment that we make every year of $3 million of our tax dollars are shepherded, and that machinery is minded carefully so that we don't have to make costly repairs to it that come out of our pockets. So I would urge all of our folks to remember that our water treatment plants are for disposing of wastewater and not all sorts of other goods. On a similar note, another thing that Administrator Hoffman mentioned was the unfortunate increase in cleaning up after pet waste on our playing fields. We have the very diligent Kara Fieser, member of the Environmental Commission, here to talk about the importance of organic treatments of our public lawns, our parks, our playing fields. And we're so convinced that addressing our lawn treatments with organic materials is worth our public time, energy, and perhaps even our tax dollars, and yet we see people allowing their pets to run unleashed, unmonitored on our playing fields where our kids are playing. So if it's worth addressing what kind of chemicals go into center field down at Nash or even Mountain View out here, isn't it worth addressing the fact that our dogs are allowed to leave excrement on our playing fields? This is against the law. It's against our ordinances. We have leash laws in our town. When you walk up to a playing field that says no dogs, that's by ordinance. That's not by some sort of fiat. So I would urge everybody to keep an eye out, keep your dog on a leash, keep them off center field down at the Shunpike playing fields. Our DPW spends a lot of time manicuring those fields and cleaning up after other people's pets. Those are our kids out there playing on these fields. They don't need to be tracking all of that through your house when they come home after a game. So unfortunately, I am called to spend energy on that. Administrator Hoffman has already spent energy on that. And day in and day out, our Department of Public Works is spending energy on that day in and day out. So please be mindful of where our waste is landing. Thank you.
Thank you. Great report, Karen. And Tracy?
Yes, we had an Environmental Commission meeting on Tuesday night, and I'm happy to report that the free seedling event was a huge success. Over 1,000 trees were given out, and about 100 plus people showed up to take those trees. So the Environmental Commission is encouraging people to take pictures of their trees as they steward them through as they grow. So please send in those pictures if you have them. We'd love to see those trees being planted and how they're doing it. The Commission is also a co-sponsor of a regional roundtable with ANJAC, which is happening on May 16th in Madison. And this is going to be on the topic of single-use plastic pollution. It's going to include state and local officials, Madison, the Chathams, Florham Park, Livingston, Long Hill, Morris Township. If you have an interest in attending, you can sign up with ANJAC. Again, that's Thursday, May 16th. And the commission also expressed sympathy to the family of Frank Esposito, who passed away 2 weeks ago and was a longtime member of the Environmental Commission and an active member of the Environmental Commission. So we send our condolences to his family. Colony Pool Camp. Colony Pool Camp, unfortunately, has not gotten the enrollment that we've needed so far to run the camp. We have a total of 31 campers signed up. We need a total of 30 campers per week. So we're hoping for a last-minute push. The camp represents an opportunity for people and kids to enjoy some kind of old-fashioned fun summer camp opportunities at Colony Pool, and it's also a revenue-generating opportunity for us, for Colony Pool, to make up for some of the losses that we've had over the past year. So if you have kids between the grades of 1 and 5, and you want them to come down and experience some fun and some crafts and some yoga and some sports and some swimming, please head on over to Colony Pool website or click on our Facebook page and sign up. We'll have until May 24th is the deadline for that. Good news is that we do have and right, I can say this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The good news is that we have a wonderful restaurant who has taken over the concession stand at Colony Pool, and that would be the Meat House in Summit. I don't know if any of you have ever been there, but it's one of our favorites. They have delicious pulled porks and meats and all sorts of things. They put together a great concession bar menu, and I think it's going to be a real upgrade for Colony Pool. You can get salads and onion rings and French fries and healthful things. Steak what?
Steak tips.
Steak tips, which is what they're known for, their tri-tips. So very happy that Bob was able to speak to them. Oh, they're not getting the menu right now. And I also want to thank Shannon McCarty for reaching out. We had a bunch of people, along with Bob and myself and members of the Colony Pool Committee, who reached out to local restaurateurs, caterers, to see if anybody was interested in coming in and servicing Colony Pool. So we're very excited that that bore fruit, and that we have, we're going to welcome the Meat House to Colony Pool.
Do they bring their own staff?
Yes.
Yes,
Is there anything else on it?
If I can expound on it, the answer is yes. That's a good question. It'll be staffed by adults. It will be staffed by employees of the meat house. They will be trained by the owner and the manager. There will actually be a manager there for all 101 days that the Colony Pool will be open. And we are saying 101 days because we have asked some of the Lenape Indians to do a no rain dance so that we can have sunshine and we can have good weather for the Colony Pool and have more people sign up. The other thing is that they will be preparing the foods there on site. So they will be bringing in special refrigeration units for salads and things like that, but the prep work will be done there. It'll be the same food that is served out of their primary store in Summit, but they will be making their sandwiches fresh on site as well as the salads.
So that's very exciting to have a concessioner with the quality of the Meat House. So very much looking forward to that. The Communications Committee, although we have not met, we've begun negotiations with the Comcast cable franchise to ensure that we're receiving our contractual services, not overpaying. Thanks to Tom Salvis and to Bob to going through those contracts and finding out how much we pay, how much we get back, and Tom for going through all the equipment and meeting with the Comcast cable negotiator, and Albert as well for going through all of the contracts. And we're going to request money to upgrade our video equipment. Tom kept a diligent inventory of all of our equipment. We were lucky enough to receive almost $39,000 the first go-round with our cable franchise agreement, which enabled all of these meetings to be televised, as well as having different camera angles. So we're really squeezing the life out of Tom before he retires on June 1st. But we very much appreciate your efforts as we move forward with that contract. One last report, the Rolling Knolls site. The Community Advisory Group will be meeting on Monday at 6 p.m. at the Township building. And the PRPs, or what's called the Principally Responsible Parties, will be discussing their role in the remediation process, and all are invited to attend. So that's 6 p.m. on Monday night. And that's it.
Great, thank you, Tracy. And Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, a report from the Municipal Alliance, if I may. First, the National Take Back Day was a great success on April 27th. That's when the police and their collection box for outdated prescriptions and medications were stationed at the Hickory Square Mall, and the public made good use of that. And just a reminder that collection box is available in the police department lobby any weekday during business hours for you to dispose of your prescriptions and medications that you no longer want or need. Also, you're going to start seeing the signs pop up around town for the Municipal Alliance's next campaign, which at this time of year is the People Who Host Lose the Most. Just a reminder that this time of proms and graduations and spring parties and things, that please be conscious of the law and safe driving regulations, and be careful involving alcohol. They'll also be, as always, putting the car out in front of the high school as a reminder of what some inattention and lack of care can do. So please be careful. And thirdly, also from the Municipal Alliance, is that they're coming up to the end of their budget year, and they are going to be looking for a new coordinator. This is a volunteer local position. So people who have been thinking about getting involved, this would be a good time of year to contact the Municipal Alliance and step forward. It doesn't have to be in the coordinator position, but it is the logical time to get involved and help out with that project. So thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Albert, anything? No reports. Okay. John, any reports?
Yeah, just briefly, Mayor, just regarding paving for this year, just to note that we still have 2018 funding available for some roads. And those roads, we do have a portion of Woodlawn that was removed for drainage, and then we are ready to start to schedule that work and complete that. That was part of a NJDOT grant, so we need to close out that grant and move forward. The other neighborhood that was scheduled was Lenape, Yarmouth, Falmouth, and Plymouth. That neighborhood was also targeted. There was delays and a hold on that neighborhood for drainage issues that we are installing a basin on Falmouth, and on the end of Plymouth, we evaluated the end of the road does flood because the drainage is undersized, and we looked at increasing that drainage system, and that actually ties at the drainage actually goes through an easement and then discharges onto Lenape. So there was some work on Lenape that had to be done before to address that flooding, and then we also had the curb discussion on Lenape. So we just need to bring some of these issues to a close regarding if we're going to proceed with any at all drainage or any improvements in this neighborhood, or proceed just with the paving and move forward with the project. So we do still need to make some decisions on that so we can start scheduling that work and getting it done.
When we were talking during the end of last week and into this week about the rain that we had and the conditions on Lenape Trail lately, I mean, you can see how egregious it is. It's seeping into everybody's, the bird baths, as you call them.
Yeah.
And one neighbor mentioned to me not long ago, well, what if we were talking about the curbing, and they said, well, what if we proceed without the curbing, meaning we don't have to go and take a neighborhood referendum on the Belgian block and whether to assess individual homes and so on. What if we can just start work on it
certainly
without the curbing?
It's a
discussion.
better procedure to install the curb first and then
Right.
do the paving. And certainly, you know, there is some, you're not going to grade the road perfectly to get a uniform slope in order to not get any of those bird bats or minor pond. But we can improve it. We can do our best to try it, but we're not going to eliminate it. In those areas where we can't eliminate it, perhaps we can look at just trying to mend the soils or do something along the edge to kind of get the water to drain. And really, when you look at it, when you really have to walk the road not after a rainfall, but you need to walk it the next day.
Sure.
And make sure that.
Or even
and that's really
days
the
after.
nuisance because you know,
Right.
we get complaints, you know, frankly all the time regarding, you know, ponding that occurs right after a storm. But when you go out there 12 hours later, the water's gone. It just needs time to infiltrate in small areas. So on Lenape, there's certainly and Lenape, the road is a little narrower there versus some of the other roads in town, and people do tend to drive off the road and compact the soils, and that's been an ongoing problem over on Lenape. But I have to say, we really haven't had a curb project, you know, at
Right.
least 15 plus years.
Right.
You know, the township just hasn't had that program where we install new curb. You know, in Crestwood, we actually notified the residents that we were paving the road, and if there was an interest in installing curbing, I think we gave everyone 90 days. You have 90 days, install the curb if you're interested in getting Belgian. If not, we're going to proceed with the road, and maybe that may be
And
a
then did
possibility.
each individual resident on Crestwood then fork over the money, or? I
Yeah,
mean,
they hired their own contractor.
They did? Oh, I see.
They hired their own contractor, and
Okay.
what we did was just gave them offsets on where the curb needs to be, because we don't want the road to be.
Oh, well, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
So
want kind of a straight line.
we gave them survey marks so that if someone was interested, we gave them the marks so that their contractor can pull off the center line and get the curb in the exact location where it should be.
So
And we
if
can offer that.
if this is 2018 money, this is something that we've already spoken about for over a year now. What kind of time frame do we have for these folks who have expected that their road was going to be paved months and months ago?
Well, there's a couple of things, John, if I may, and you bring us up to speed. There's, on Lenape, there's still one of the utilities has to do a little more work on there. Is that?
There is. There was a road opening permit that was issued to PSE&G to repair some of the services. So that's going to be done, but that will be done in the relatively near future.
Right, so once, what I was saying is the decision's been made to pave the road. We should look to have a policy decision so that we can contact the residents and say, we're going to pave the road.
Right.
This year, it'll probably be late summer or something like that. We don't.
Well,
do we have
it's a matter
timeline?
of, we were planning on doing it with the Morris County Co-op, and it's just a matter of just getting on their schedule. So
Right, but
as soon as we're ready, we can call them, and with them, it could be, you know, they're usually a month or so out, or, you know, sometimes they'll just call and say, hey, can you get notices out, can we pave next week?
No, but it was a question of when is the utility, when's PSE&G going to come and do their work so that we know, and then we can schedule the paving after that. That's, you know, that's what I was.
Yeah, a road opening permit was issued to them, I believe, about 2 weeks ago, and they said they were going to do it immediately, so I suspect that they're going to.
So can we follow up to make sure that they
Yeah, sure.
do
If
it
that's
quickly?
the only issue that, you know, though we had other, you know, issues with the curbing, so if we can move forward, we can just, you know, just bring everything to a close and schedule.
You know, and one of the other things that I've asked our construction office to do is we have 2 houses on that street that are undergoing significant
Right?
renovation, so I wanted to know when can we anticipate final inspections? That way we know that there won't be heavy equipment,
Right.
you know, delivery trucks.
For the time being.
Well, yes,
Right.
you know, get it-
Until
get
the
it
next
finished so
one.
we can pave the road instead of having
Right, of course.
asphalt crushed by
Right.
some delivery.
Well, in the meantime, we've also got Yarmouth, Falmouth, and Plymouth that are all part of the same schedule, correct? Weren't they all circled for
They all-
2018?
Yarmouth just has some basin work to be done, and Plymouth, we just,
Right.
again, the issues or requests from some of the neighbors was to address the end of the road,
Right.
which floods during heavy storms.
Is
So-
any of it prepared to move forward?
The decision needs to be made, are we going to address that issue or not? Because that requires, if we're going to address it in a proper way, it requires extending drainage pipe from the end of Fairmount through an easement onto Lenape all the way down to Shumpike. It's about $120,000 project, so that's just, and then funding has not been set aside for that. So it's just, we just need to decide if we're going to postpone Plymouth again, or do we just move forward with the paving.
All right.
You
And
asked,
then-
you asked for a policy decision last week on the curbing, John, and, you know, listening to you make your presentation and thinking about it over the last 2 weeks, I mean, the message that came across to me was that this, if we paid for the curbing on Lenape, it really would be a precedent-setting change from our policy in the past. And
It would be a significant change of what our policy is.
so I think it would be wrong and unfair to other people who have paid for their curbing for us to come in and publicly pay for the curbing on Lenape. So my preference as far as a direction back would be that we ought to make sure the residents there know that we don't view curbing as a public portion of this project. So if the flooding or the ponding is on that property is a big enough problem in their mind, it's going to be on them to really step up.
Right, well, the
and
Belgian
do it.
block was one solution, and it's beautiful, but that's not the only, I mean, we can make the asphalt berms that come up, and they're just, have always been part of the local
I would just be-
landscape down where we live anyway,
I would
so.
just be hesitant, because if you put a berm in, you may trap water more frequently, versus if there's no berm, it's going to flow into the grass and then recharge into the grass. So if we're putting berms in, I think we're going to have more of a complaint and possibly icing, other issues, because the road is so flat. We're going to improve, or do our best to try and get a more uniform slope on the road, but we're not going to eliminate all the little puddle areas that are there. It's just too difficult. So if the direction of the committee is that we're not going to proceed with a capital project to install curb, then I would suggest we notify the residents and let them know that we will be paving Lenape this year, and that if they want to proceed with curb work, we'll give them a date, July
I think
1st.
that'd be a good idea.
Is that a wrong order of work, or should they have the curbing first?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
we
what
would
John-
encourage them.
That's what he.
We don't want people, once we pave the road, we don't want people starting to disturb the road and break it, and all of a sudden you have joints and everything, because, well, the more joints you have, the more potential for the road to deteriorate.
No, my
quicker.
concern is, John, sorry to interrupt, are we going to have to redo this? So, a couple of years, because we've done.
No,
Okay.
no.
Just
we-
want to
we
make sure.
We just, we're giving them an opportunity if they want to do it and install it now. Even with Crestwood, we didn't have a moratorium that after we paved, you couldn't install curbing. We do have an ordinance now, if you have a 5-year moratorium after we pave, that's still, you can still proceed to disturb the road within that moratorium period, but we do require special restoration procedures, such as doing infrared, where if you do cut the road, you got to heat it up
Right.
again, blend it in. So we're not prohibiting people from putting curbing in the future, but we're giving them the opportunity now to
Okay.
do the improvement.
So we will
So
let the residents.
can we move forward on that? What is holding us back?
Yeah.
We just need a policy decision, so if it's the consensus of the committee that we will to move forward with paving,
Right.
and then notifying the residents that
If they do
want-
choose to put Belgian block in, they can let us know within,
Right, we
Give
will,
a time frame.
we will put together a letter, send it to
Yeah,
all
that's
the
a-
residents
great.
on there. The engineer and I will come up
Sure.
with a deadline, say, you can put it in by this date, contact, for the offsets,
Okay.
contact,
All right.
John or whoever, and then we're off.
great.
Sounds like a
And
plan.
these folks have waited long enough, really, they have.
No, I agree.
And as far as the drainage at the end of Plymouth,
Again, that's a larger project if we truly want to address that issue. Right now, it's just a small basin, and it's a small diameter pipe that
Right.
drains that area. What we
if
could.
we were to pave the road right now, would the problem
We're just not
would
going to change
continue?
that condition. We're just not going to change that condition during heavy rainfall events, the end of the road floods. And it's not impacting, it's not flowing down someone's driveway and
Okay.
impacting their house or anything, the end of the road floods. And we just get lot of complaints with that. You know, we could possibly look at, or even want to talk to even though we have a drainage easement through that property, still want to talk to the property owner.
Of course.
We have that, and see if maybe we can do some grading instead of doing a pipe, because right now the pipe comes out and it just discharges right onto the grass and then to the road. So possibly we can maybe open up that channel a little bit and just have a kind of an overflow so that the water, it may still flood, but not as much, and then maybe we can do a much smaller project with some landscaping to kind
Right.
of have an overflow. It's not going to be as effective, and it may not eliminate all the complaints, but we'll make the situation better.
Right. I think that would be great.
And from a budget perspective, when we were going over the capital projects, we had in the budget the funds to do Lenape Trail and Jensen Court.
No, we were proposing.
We have a down payment, yes.
Yeah, the area that we were proposing was the Sandy Hill neighborhood, that's the area, and then Jensen Court. So those two areas that were targeted for this year.
Those were targeted this year, but...
Tracy, is your mic on?
Yes? Oh, no. Sorry, my question was pertaining to the budget and what we have in the budget regarding our capital projects for road improvements. And I have in my notes from our budget meetings that we have Lenape Trail, drainage and paving, and Jensen Court. We did have road improvements that were scheduled in the 5-year plan for Warwick, Sandy Hill, Overlook, that whole neighborhood, but I don't believe we were able to accomplish that in the budget.
Well, right now, our draft capital budget that would be presented to the committee did not include the Lenape curbing and drainage.
Right.
It took, that was not proposed, at least that's what was initially done. What is proposed is the Sandy Hill neighborhood and Jensen Court. And within that Sandy Hill neighborhood, we were looking at possibly doing also the Woodmont Road area. But we may want to step back, and the other comment I was going to make tonight was Parkview Road. We just had some water main work done on that road, and the water company is offering to do a payment in lieu of paving a portion of that, but it's not going to be enough to do the entire road. So we may want to revisit regarding the targeted roads for next year, and perhaps pull out that Woodmont section, only because it's not physically connected into, it's just in that area of town, it's not connected to that neighborhood. So maybe those roads might be appropriate to pull out and then schedule that for a following year, and then take that money proportionally towards Parkview and others.
Because Parkview was going to be paved, say, middle to curb, only where they put the new water main
They only
in.
do a 8-foot section, that's
Right.
all they do.
They were just going to do enough to repair what they had disturbed for the new water main.
Correct.
So we would have agreed to take the funds that they had set aside for us to take them and then take responsibility for paving the road ourselves, right? And that's the way the land lies with that one now too, right? So all we have to do is come up with a schedule for getting that
So that's a
done.
decision of the committee, is that that opportunity has come up to us.
Yeah.
Parkview, that neighborhood was certainly targeted as an area to be paved soon. But we do have this opportunity where some money is being provided for final restoration. Either that road can be postponed and left in a temporary state for a year, or we just finish
Well,
the road out
if
there.
it was left in the temporary state, I mean, they probably would have rather had JCP&L just come, with New Jersey American Water come in and do the part that they had disrupted. So I think
Again,
the agreement with us
those are
taking
all
the money
options.
from.
Just with that opportunity, Bob and I haven't discussed it, but I think we would look at still focusing on that Sandy Hill neighborhood, perhaps taking out the Woodmont Road and the one or two streets, and just reallocate that money towards completing Parkview instead of having it left,
Yes.
for a full year, or just partially pave it.
Right.
And so I think that opportunity just came up, so we're just revisit the specific roads that are going to be recommended. But again, just to step back, Lenape, the curbing and the drainage, that was not being proposed.
Okay, so now we know what to do. So you're gonna meet with Bob, and you're gonna send a letter to the residents about the curbing, and let them know, give them a deadline. Then we want to do the paving, right? That's what we want.
Yeah.
And for everything else, why don't you just give us some guidance as to what you think is most important, and then we'll make a decision. So.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To follow up, The answer was yes to the paving of Lenape. We had funds in the capital budget for the paving of Lenape. What I was just looking for was to see if I could call up, there was an email from American Water, but I wasn't able to find it. I don't want to take a look at it with some numbers.
Regarding the Parkview project. That just came in this week.
They made an offer regarding
Yes.
what they feel their fair share contribution was towards.
But just to let the Township Committee know is that we're having a capital planning meeting on Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock, so we will come back with a recommendation, but it's going to be a department head meeting where we're going to look at it holistically, and then we'll make the recommendations for capital appropriations.
That's great. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, John. And I have two quick things. And Public Safety Committee met last Thursday, and myself, Deputy Mayor Mike Kelly, and Bob, and also the Chief of Police, Tom Miller, we met and we discussed a variety of safety matters for our town. And also another thing that I would like to mention, that I started Coffee with the Mayor initiative, and I'm meeting with the residents 2 days a week, 2 mornings a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays. So Saturdays from 8 to 9, and Wednesdays are 7:30 to 8:30. So if anyone has any questions or would like to connect with me, that's a great opportunity. And actually, we started last week, and our Saturday session took 2 hours instead of 1 hour. We had heated discussions, and public was engaged, and it's a great thing. And so if anyone would like to call me on my cell, it's 973-222-0484. So my cell phone number is 973-222-0484. If you can't make the meeting, want to meet with me, I'm willing to do that too. So that's that, and I think we're done with the reports. And now what we have on the agenda is the hearing of the citizens. And this is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are not topics scheduled for public hearings tonight. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Anyone would like to make any comments, would like to come forward? Nope? Okay, then I'm closing the floor to the public. Now moving on to introduction of ordinances. And Albert, are you going to give us some background here?
Yes,
our
Mr.
discussions
Mayor.
from the last meeting.
This proposed ordinance makes 2 principal changes to the canvassers, peddlers, and solicitors ordinance. First, it requires that both the clerk and the chief of police respond to an application for a permit or a license within 10 days. And the second changes the hours during which peddlers, solicitors, and canvassers can operate or engage from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Both of these changes are consistent with applicable law. The second change being particularly consistent with the Third Circuit Court of Appeals case that I brought to your attention. So those are the 2 changes embodied in this ordinance.
Thank you, great, Albert. And do I have a motion to introduce the ordinance?
I move its introduction. Just to elaborate on Albert's comment, the 9 p.m. Allowable canvassing time is not something that we're doing on our own voluntary initiative. It's unfortunately it's become the law of the land, and it's something that we have to abide by.
Great. So,
Well, I'll second it in the interest of abiding by the law for Chatham Township.
thank you, Karen. Any committee discussions? Anything else you would like to add? Anything?
Albert, is there something in that ordinance that would, that's needed to note that we are going to add a no-knock provision?
I wanted to get past this ordinance, or the discussion and the vote on this, and then I was going to raise that, but yes,
if it is the consensus of the Township Committee, there would be a further amendment to this ordinance, which would be a do not drop off ordinance, whereby residents could voluntarily place their name and address on a list maintained by the clerk that would be provided to each canvasser, peddler, solicitor within the town, expressing the clear intention of that property owner that they do not want to be solicited. So that would be the second part of this, and my intention, again, with your permission and consensus, would be to bring this before you at the next meeting for introduction.
All right, so this is going to be a little bit of a silly question, but I love Girl Scout cookies, and if I sign up for the do not knock, does that mean that the Girl Scouts can't knock on my door?
Those questions have been raised, and that's part of what I am looking at. Okay, to make
Because I wouldn't
sure-
want to do that to the Girl
to
Scouts.
make sure that whatever applicable, whatever exemptions to that can be placed in the ordinance.
Great. Anything else from the committee members?
Yeah, I would just like to note that over the years, when we are asked about what we see as threats to our township, I have responded uniformly that other governments telling Chatham Township what to do, whether it's Morris County or the state of New Jersey or the federal government coming down to Chatham Township level to tell us how to keep house, I have always thought that that was pretty much a threat to the well-being of Chatham Township. Knowing that we can stick to our knitting here in the township has kept us a great place. Knowing that we have to fork over some of our autonomy because of a higher authority, if you will, telling us what to do, I still find kind of an egregious overstep. So I'd just like to voice that once again, and that is that to say that I think Chatham Township runs a pretty tight ship, and I'm proud of it, and having to sort of capitulate in favor of somebody else telling us what to do always is unsettling to me.
Thank you, Karen. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Ness?
Regrettably, yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Slin?
Yes.
Motion to introduce passes. Public hearing will be on May 23rd.
Great, thank you. Now we have the consent agenda, and consent agenda is the routine items that may be passed by a single roll call vote. Any committee member may call for a separate discussion or vote on any item separately. So, Greg, would you like to go through
Yes,
that?
this evening we have Resolution 2019-111, payment of bills, 2019-112, approving meeting minutes, 2019-113, approving executive session minutes, 2019-114, refunding permit fee, 2019-115, estimated tax bills, and 2019-116, corrective action plan. And if I may make one quick note, the corrective action plan itself was distributed with the copies of the audit, and this resolution is signifying your acknowledgement that you have received it.
Okay, great.
At the next meeting, in connection with the audit, typically there's a resolution done where you certify as a group that you've gone over at the very least, gone over the general recommendations. That'll be on the next meeting once you've had a time to actually look at what's in that lengthy audit.
Okay, great. Great, thank you.
You'll be certifying that one recommendation.
And that we've read the entire thing.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Anyone second it?
Second?
Okay, so roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
I'm going to vote yes on everything except, just as a formality, I need to recuse myself of one item on the list of bills. There's a reimbursement for my wife who put some money out for the supplies for the Environmental Commission, and her name appears on the list of bills. So I'm recusing myself on that one, but yes to all others.
Mayor Slin?
Yes.
Motion passes, everything is approved, and I have that reimbursement check for you, Mr. Kelly, for the missus.
Okay, great. And we have, I'm moving on with the agenda item. We have two discussion items on the agenda. One is the bylaws amendments, and the other one is the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. And I'm supposed to start with the bylaws, but I'm going to make a change there. I'm going to go with the Senior Citizen advisory committee, because we have folks here visiting our meeting. So I had a quick meeting, and our member of the board of directors for our senior center here, John Krauthamel, introduced to me quickly, and when I discussed with him, I said, this is a great opportunity for you to just share what you just shared with me, with the public, with our rest of our committee members, and we'll take it from there. And he offered, he was excited about it, and he wanted to say, yeah, he said, yes, let's do it. And I invited him. He's here now, and he's going to give us some background information. And we left the mic over there. Is that where it's going to be from now on? Is that okay?
It's fine there.
Left, right? Okay. All right, so you can come here. So, so we'll give you
Okay, thank you.
3 minutes. After you, it may be 5 minutes, but right now you have,
Okay,
you
5
have
minutes.
3 to 5, somewhere in between, probably. So,
Well, thank you for inviting us. What we're trying to discuss here today is Tri-Town 55. We all know our background. Back in January 2016, we had the needs assessment
is the
survey.
mic on?
Is this on? Okay, wasn't close enough. Back in January 2016, we had our needs assessment survey. Held public forums with the older adult population of our 3 towns, the borough, the township, and Madison. And the top 3 priorities that they wanted were housing, transportation, and information. So we first took the transportation. As you all know, that's been highly successful. We have given close to 5,000 rides now. We did 102 just last month. So we've been working with the Madison Chamber of Commerce now, introducing age-friendly storekeepers, and we have over 40 stores in Madison now that are showing our decals. So the one thing we're going to try and tackle now is information. We back in fall last year, we interviewed approximately 30 leaders in the 3 towns, both municipal, religious, non-government, and non-profit decision makers. And the common thread that came from that is communication, information. We have some great organizations in our municipalities that do have services for the older population. The problem is getting the information out so the older population knows who these organizations are, and what services they offer, when they offer them. So one of the things we did in the Madison and Chatham papers is, since May is Older Americans Month, is we put an insert, a 4-page insert of all these organizations that are there now and what they do, their times, what services they offer. And so we were discussing in Tri-Town, Madison has had a senior citizens advisory committee. It was created in 1975 by resolution, but it wasn't active, and it's been reinvigorated. They are now holding meetings again. Tom Honahan is the president of the Madison Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, as well as our corporate secretary. And he's here. If you have any questions regarding the running of the committee, their committee is already up and running. So we thought, because of the 2 Chathams, instead of having 3 separate committees, why can't we have a joint committee between the 2 Chathams? And we passed around, I hope you all got a copy of this. I had sent it to the township clerk. This is basically a draft of what the Madison Senior Citizen Committee is. And basically, we would invite the nonprofits and organizations within our 2 towns, including the Y, the Interfaith Councils, the Senior Center, the library. These organizations would be invited to join this committee, as well as citizens from both communities. I'd like to see equal numbers from both. That's what I would like to see, similar to what the trustees are at the Chatham Senior Center. And basically, as our byline says, working together to build lifelong communities.
Because New Jersey is the #1 state in the union for exiting the state. But many people want to stay here. And we think we should form a committee so that we can work with the older Americans, various programs, health, medical. We get information through Tri-Town from state, national, and global organizations on different older adult issues, housing, everything. But we need a conduit to get all this information out and advise our municipalities, the governments, as well as getting the information out to the community. And my question to you folks, you're the experts in the administration of something like this. How would you like, we would like some input on how we should go about doing this. Should it be a municipal function? Should it be something outside municipalities to get this organized? And that's my discussion question.
Well, I've had the pleasure of serving as the liaison to the Senior Center for years now. And I think the Senior Center of the Chathams does a fabulous job.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when I was liaison to the Board of Health, Lisa Gulla, at the time, our
Right.
health officer, brought up the idea of using Grata Foundation money to float a survey, out of which came Tri-Town 55 plus.
Right.
So we've already got in existence a fabulous senior center for Chatham Township and Chatham Borough, which is funded generously by the governments of Chatham Township, by the taxpayers of Chatham Township and Chatham Borough. And we're open to the entire surrounding areas too. We don't throw
Right.
up the walls and say you can
Right.
only come and join us. They receive thousands of calls a year. The senior center here receives thousands of calls for information, resources, etc. And they provide transportation through their bus, etc., a couple of days a week. The activities are endless, and they're always increasing. So I would advocate that the Senior Center of the Chathams is already doing an excellent job, and with the extra layer of Tri-Town 55 plus, I mean, are they being phased out, Tri-Town 55 plus? So we're going to add yet another advisory committee, or isn't that what Tri-Town 55 plus
No, what we want to do is
already does?
have all these entities, the senior center, the library, to come together and discuss their activities, and we can impart activities that we get from a national global perspective, so that we have a common communication control, so that everybody will know what all these organizations are doing, and we don't
Tri-Town
have.
55 plus isn't going to be involved in that, or is it just?
We would like to be a part of the committee, yes, we're going to be part of the committee, but what we're proposing is that the committee elect its own leaders and run as an independent community, where we would be a part of the committee as far as imparting information with all the other organizations on the committee.
Well, I applaud the effort. I think no matter what you choose to do, if you are going to focus on disseminating information to anybody,
Right.
I think it's always a noble effort to do that. So I think it's great that you've taken the initiative. Maybe we have some input from Madison and how they run things, whether Madison is actually already doing a pretty good job of it themselves as well. I see layer upon layer of duplication of energy.
Before we get to Madison, so I want to see if there's any other comments from the committee members up to this point. What was presented by John?
I think that we have some precedent in having joint committees. We have a joint recreation committee that we share with the borough and the township. And they get together and discuss, even though we don't run recreation programs anymore, they're club sports. It is an organizational group that talks about issues affecting sports, what the club teams need, what things are going on. So there is that kind of organization that we do have, and there seems to be some value in having a joint senior advisory committee between the Chathams in the Chathams. I would like to understand how it works in Madison. but, you know, engaging more of the senior population is always a good thing, with coming up with ideas or needs that they have, or information that they want, or just, you know, there's a lot to share on both sides. So I guess I would like to understand how that works in Madison as well.
Sure. I think I'd echo those thoughts, not just hearing how it works in Madison, but maybe a little bit more detail of how it would work in the Chathams. I mean, we are blessed with having the Chatham Senior Center located literally here
Right.
in this building in the township. And then earlier this week, I had the benefit of attending the volunteer luncheon at the library. So I know they have a very active support group there, the volunteers and the Friends of the Library and all. And I guess if for a group that sees a very possible benefit of better communication and dissemination of ideas between the existing groups, I guess I would like as a first step to maybe have a group such as yours kind of poll those different existing groups and let us have a better handle on the details of how it would work and how it would improve things.
Well, like I said, when we did all the interviews back in fall, that seemed to be a common thread, is we're talking to the library, the head of the library is, well, it was described as these groups are like, they call them silos, but to get the information between all the different groups so that it could be coordinated in a way that it can be presented to the public of all the activities that are going on in our community. That's the reason for developing this
So
committee.
do you envision somebody spending all of their energy in farming the information that comes in from all of the other organizations that are already, you know, you take all the programs that our senior center runs and couple them with the programs that Madison runs and try and create a portal of sorts? Obviously, it's got to be a multi-pronged media approach. You can't have
Right.
it all online because not everybody is online. But if it's really just about disseminating information, then I suppose you have a person who's responsible for collecting and then disseminating. It's a
Yeah.
matter of just information.
Well, it would be both ways. We would coordinate all these organizations. I mean, we're not competing with any of them in any way. We're trying to coordinate the different organizations
Right.
so that the public is aware of what's going on, what is available
Mm-hmm.
to them.
I find it interesting that the genesis of Tri-Town 55 Plus was when the three of us belonged to the same Board of Health contract.
Right.
Or the same health department, I should say, contract. And with Chatham Borough having divorced themselves from a relationship with our health department in Madison, now the Chatham Borough Board of Health actually is sort of run through, I think it's the Westfield Health
Yes.
Department,
Yes.
if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Yes.
So, you know, we have bifurcation going on all over the place, and I can understand wanting to keep us all in cahoots, except for we're not. And, you know, when you think about the sort of similarities between Chatham Borough and Madison Borough in terms of having Main Street running down there and being sort of somewhat commercial zones, and then here, you know, the country bumpkins out here in Chatham Township have less to do with Chatham Township, Chatham Borough and Madison Borough. So
Okay.
it seems a little bit disjointed, and we keep trying to force these three communities into one bucket where, in fact, we're so different in so many ways.
We're different, but we're also the same in shared services too, which is why we came together in the first place. You know, obviously,
Right, I know.
the Board of Health situation
I'm
is...
not arguing, but we
yeah.
certainly
No,
have
I'm
already have a
nor
lot
am
of...
I. Nor am I. So, you know, what we want is, so I'm getting a consensus from the committee that you would like to see something develop informally. Is that what I'm getting?
I congratulate you on it. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah.
The more information that circulates among the people who are paying taxes to
Right.
run these communities, the better. I don't know what you want from the government of Chatham Township.
Well,
That's
what
kind of curious.
we're looking for is, you know, get an idea of how you feel the administration of it should be. Should it be as a municipality? Should it be outside the municipalities?
I think,
You know.
John, for that to be discussed, I think it's early, my
Right.
opinion, to discuss the mechanics, how would that work, how
Right.
would that function? And I think, as the other member said, I think we want to see more details of what the differentiator would be, because we have this, because the first question I got from someone, what is the difference? We have the senior center, but this, I said, my understanding is this new proposed committee will be advising the municipality, not, I don't think the senior center is
The
doing
committee,
that.
the committee,
You are,
Perhaps
yeah,
the
but
citizens would care for
I
that.
understand you don't need advice, but that's what they're proposing. And that's my understanding. You can
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong. And you are the board member of the senior center here.
Yes.
And also leading this initiative, one of the leaders probably?
Yeah.
Okay, one of the leading persons. Okay, I think we'll have to learn more, and I
Okay.
think we have to do that, then we'll proceed based on that. But at this point, maybe we can hear more from, or if you would like to.
I could just say a couple.
Sure.
Clarify things. So I'm Tom Honahan. I'm the chairman of the Madison Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. I'm also on the Downtown Development Commission, and I work with John on the 55 plus. The purpose of the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee in Madison, which was formed in 1975, is what the name says, to advise the Borough Council on senior citizens related issues. The objective of the committee is to get members of the senior citizens population in Madison on the committee or attending committee meetings, and we solicit issues, concerns, and views from the senior citizens and formulate those into recommendations or information for the Borough Council. So on our Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, we do have representatives from the library, the YMCA, the senior citizens, the senior center, and so forth. And again, the focus is on getting senior citizens engaged in the government, inputting information, and so forth for the Borough Council. That's the focus. What John's talking about as far as broader communications and so forth, that kind of comes out of some of those kinds of conversations, but it's not part of what the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee does, right? We focus just on our own senior citizens in Madison to get their input and engage them in projects that the committee itself comes up with and gets approval by the borough. So we have various initiatives that we do to keep senior citizens engaged, and that's the focal point of what we're doing. Engage the senior citizens, get them involved, get them to get input into the government, but also be participating in things like the farmers market. We have a little volunteer group, so we have people at the table at the farmers market, engages the senior citizens, they interact with their counterparts within the town, and we work like that. We have a couple of other initiatives going. So, but again, the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee is, the purpose of the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee is to get information from the senior citizens of our town, evaluate that, and then report back to the Borough Council periodically, or if there are any special issues that come up. So that's the entire purpose of the committee.
But you have a senior center
The
as
seniors,
well.
yeah, we have a senior center. They sit on the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, but the senior center does not have any initiatives to gather information from the senior citizens and report them to the Borough Council. That's why
I'm a little late to the party here, obviously, but
Yeah.
is there any reason why, I mean, have you had the conversations with our senior center board as well already, and why this would not be a subsidiary or a advisory group of that board?
Subcommittee, right?
Of that board versus something that for the township, as it were?
Yeah, so we're not recommending, any structure. We're just saying, this is what Madison does. John is on the senior center
He's on
board.
He's
Okay.
He's a board.
Right. There are many ways. I mean, again, the idea was to just review what Madison was doing as an example of many other towns in New Jersey have senior citizens advisory committees. Again, depending on the structure of an individual or municipality, there are different ways to do that. If indeed you feel it's important to make a specific effort to solicit information on a regular basis through a regular process to get information from the senior citizens.
I'm just trying to figure out what void we're trying to fill here, that's not already being
Yeah, right.
remedied from the senior center board itself or from their resources that they have themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they operate, but they could just have a process of gathering information from senior citizens, right? I mean, that's not, not hard to do, but it takes some effort and organization to do, right?
Thanks.
Yep.
Great. And perfect, thank you.
Okay.
And anything else, John, you would like to add? You have minus 3 minutes left.
No, like,
And
like
John,
Chris
this
said.
is something that you've discussed with the board. Has this
At
been
the senior
some-
center?
At the senior center, is this something that's
We haven't
coming out
discussed it
of
with
those-
them. I've talked to Julie about a variety of issues.
Well, as far as having a subcommittee on communication, I don't think that's ever come up. So if communication is something that you suggest as a board member of the senior center, then maybe we could just incorporate that into a subcommittee. We already have such an active group. Why not just
Exactly. We're not-
why not just extend the existing board and say, let's have somebody making sure we act as an information portal? Because clearly people call the senior center all day, all week, all year long. They're fielding phone calls
I know,
every day
yeah,
from
right.
folks seeking resources, information. They have information gathering events. They have speakers,
Yes.
presentations and so on.
And we're not going to do anything in any way to compete with that.
Well,
We're
it's not a matter of competing.
No, we're
It's
just
all
trying, we're
working
trying to
towards
get the different entities in the two towns to get a central form of communication.
Well, if we can incorporate that, I think that'd be a
Yeah.
great idea, and just run it through the senior
John,
center.
thank you.
Okay.
And for your presentation. I
Okay.
think it's a good idea, and we'll have to discuss more. We'll have to learn more on what the differentiators are, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we're going to, another discussion point is the bylaws amendments. And Albert, I think you will be the one who will give us some continued update. So I think we
Well,
know what we're
I-
discussing here, but
It was discussed at the last Township Committee meeting. You were going to think about whether or not what was presented to you was acceptable, whether it required modifications, whether you wanted to proceed forward. So it's really up in the committee's court now to either give direction or call it a day on it.
all right, so committee, 5 of us here. What do we think?
Do we say up to 5 minutes or 15 minutes?
I think the last version was 5 minutes, and we would keep it to 30 minutes at the beginning and 30 minutes at the end.
Well,
No,
the
that's not the way it's drafted. The way it's drafted
The-
is upped it to 5 minutes, no time limit for speakers. Because the example that was given, if we had the 30-minute limit and there were, 6 individuals that wanted to speak, that would take up the entire 30 minutes. So the way this is drafted does not include a 30-minute limit.
The draft is in your packet.
Right.
Yeah,
so-
I had suggested at the last meeting that we had to put some sort of cap on it.
Right, but
because
it's
that
kind of an
leaves-
either or, I
Right,
think.
it was like an hour of, a half an hour up front, a half an hour at the end, which accounts for an hour of public comment period. And then we have the cap, the hard stop on us doing business, where our meetings stop.
Well, you know what's interesting is that if we have any kind of back and forth with someone who comes to the microphone, it's possible, unless, as we have discussed, that maybe we just allow the public hearing of citizens and not engage them, but sometimes that's hard, right? Sometimes somebody comes forth and something is worthy of discussion. So if you say 30 minutes, and what if the lack of latitude kind of,
I don't disagree. I think it's important for us to answer questions.
yeah.
I think it's important for us to engage in dialogue. I think we have to make a decision from a bylaw perspective, and I think we also have to be cognizant of the ability to run the meeting. So we have to marry all those things together. The ability to have the latitude when we have a topic that's controversial, like hunting or the skate park or something along those lines where we're going to have a lot of people. I mean, the majority of people, we didn't have anybody speak tonight.
Right.
So we're going to have, most of our nights are going to be like this.
I think as Bob pointed out too, even a very lengthy presentation seems to be 5 minutes or shorter, even though sometimes it seems to us that one person comes up and speaks quite a long time, that they really aren't much longer than 5 minutes, right? Isn't that kind of, you timed them, didn't you?
I've been, most of our residents speak within 3 minutes. You know, several go to 4, but that's
Right.
usually it. We've had the outliers have been 10 and 13 minutes.
Yeah, and it is an outlier. But if there's a line out the door, you have the option to say, please, we really do have to respect the time frame.
Discretion
I know you
is
do.
necessary.
Well, what's that?
Yeah, no, I know.
No,
I know
my
you've
point of
never
view
been in
is, I don't
favor
think we should ever limit our individuals' time to speak. 5 minutes is good, but in terms of limiting it to 30 minutes
Right.
for the first time, that's 6 people. And we know when we have issues of significance that people come out here, we usually have, the queue is longer than 6 people. And again, this is the people's meeting. We come out here 2 times a month, and if it means the agenda's too full because we know something to be of interest to people, then you know what, we lessen the agenda so we can have these fruitful conversations with our residents. We shouldn't try to stymie and prevent people from coming up here and talking. We're here for them. So I think we should, 5 minutes expands it by 2 minutes. We've done our own back of the envelope analysis. More often than not, it doesn't go to 5 minutes, maybe 3.5, 4 kind of a thing. But I would suggest we keep it open. And, you know, as I said, as we know controversial or issues that are of interest to the public, then we just look at the agenda more carefully and say, okay, this is going to be a big one. Let's limit it so we're just talking about the issue tonight, and all the other stuff can be, you know, set aside to another meeting.
Right, so therefore not having the 30-minute here and 30-minute there, but allowing however many 5 minutes.
As it's written right now.
And that's what the township attorney has drafted. Yep. So it's 5 minutes, but there's no cap. So there's no 30 minutes at the beginning or 30 minutes at the end. So if there is a significant issue, such as a dirigible docking station, and people want to come and speak for a long time about that, you know, they can.
Right.
So there's no.
And the one thing that people should be aware of, though, is like speakers are asked to speak once, at least per session or per public hearing. So in other words, like, think before you speak, right? In other words, like, when you come to the microphone, try to get all your thoughts together, you know, unless you want to wait for the next cue in the second public hearing.
I'm fine with it.
And all, I think those are spelled out here. It's probably just our job to.
Yeah,
make sure the
I'm
public
saying
knows.
now if it's different, we just got to articulate that going forward.
The only amendment that I would make to, or suggested amendment I'd make to the way it's worded here is not to limit the first public comment to items that are on the agenda. And I think it's the same sentiment that I'm hearing from up here is that we really should not be limiting the public. If they come to the meeting and they want to talk about an issue and it just does not happen to be on the agenda that night, we should not turn them away. We should let them talk about that issue. So that
Right, but if I'm not mistaken, when we have something that's being introduced, when there's an ordinance that's being introduced, there's time for public comment, and then people, when it's an item that is on the agenda, isn't there public comment?
What I would propose is that under 3A, which now says, during the first public portion of the agenda, speakers may comment upon items on the agenda that are not subject of a separate public hearing. I would recommend that we take out the words "on the agenda," so that during that first public portion of on the agenda, speakers may comment upon items that are not the subject of a separate public hearing scheduled for that meeting, just as you said there, Karen. And then under 3C, I would propose that it's now worded, during the second public comment period, speakers may comment upon any topic that it's unnecessary then to say, including agenda items. For the good and general welfare of the Township of Chatham, speakers may comment for up to 5 minutes. We can again take out what's now repetitive, saying on any topic for the good and general welfare of the Township again, because we've said it above. And speakers may speak once and may not yield their time to another speaker. So with those 2 items, I think it's in spirit of what we're saying here, of trying to encourage people to speak and let us listen, limit it to 5 minutes, but not have a 30-minute or any other limit on the total length of the public comment period itself.
Bob, you were trying to say something?
Yes, the township committee will set the policy however they wish. I just wanted to remind the township committee that this was worded initially this way so that anybody that was looking at the agenda that wanted to come out to a meeting to speak on a specific item that was on the agenda would have that opportunity to do so. Just would do it in the beginning, and that would give the township committee the opportunity to ponder that before they took a vote, took action on whatever was on the agenda. But that's why it was worded that in this particular fashion, just so that the township committee members would have the opportunity to hear from citizens first on the items that were on the agenda, and then they could take action on what was in the packet, but also what was said at the meeting, and then hear from all of the citizens on whatever topic they want. That's why it was constructed.
Yeah, I kind of agree with your way of proposing. So I think we need to get through the agenda, and then we need to listen to everyone, and let them speak, and we engage. That's fine, as just like Kurt suggested. But there's a time limit. In the end, we need to finish by 12 midnight, right? So sometimes, I know many nights that we finished 12 midnight here, and so how do we compromise and achieve everything? So, and people who are coming here to speak about the items on the agenda are probably, I'm thinking, there are more current issues than today's issues. So I think we should give them I wouldn't say priority, but just the timing-wise, I would think we need to let them speak first, and that's what I think.
I don't think there's anything here, Mr. Mayor, that would keep you from, at the start of the public session, the first public session, just urge people who have an item to comment on the agenda to come to the microphone first. I don't think it's something we can dictate, I think, but as a request, it certainly seems like that's a reasonable request.
Yeah, how it's written in the agenda is up to us, right? Mm-hmm. This is not the verbatim from the bylaw. You can put in whatever the hell you want here in terms of giving direction to people, saying, listen, this first hearing is designed for X or whatever. You can tailor this any which way you want, just so it's more instructive for the people in the audience.
But it should be consistent with the bylaws.
Consistent, but Albert, you can still put it in plain English. In other words, it's for the folks out here, so they understand, all right, so you don't have to always regurgitate it all the time. It's like, it's on the agenda. This session is primarily for topics on the agenda. That being said, we welcome all comments either way, one way or the other.
Latitude.
So everybody wants to serve public the best. So what is the best way? I think that's the question here. So I think there's no right or wrong on this one. That's what I'm thinking.
I think that Mike's amendments to the agenda, noting that it doesn't have to be agenda items in the first session, would be give the most latitude.
So with hearing that, I would make a motion that we adopt that as amended and see if it has the support of the town.
Well, now here's a question, Albert. Right now, introduction of ordinances 2019-08, amending canvassers and solicitors. So somebody sees it on the agenda, they decide to come to the meeting and say, what if A, B, and C? They've got questions on ordinance 2019-08. If they come during the public hearing session, do you therefore say, well, we're going to hold a public hearing on this item alone, isolated, so please come forth at that time and send them back to the chair?
When an ordinance is up for introduction.
Right.
That would be a public portion comment. So that person, before the ordinance is considered for introduction, would have an opportunity to speak.
So therefore
So
they
that's
don't...
before introduction.
Right.
Then after introduction, there's notice in the newspaper publication, and then there's a formal public hearing on that ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
So that would fall into the public hearing category, not the public portion category. So on introduction, it goes in the public portion. on public hearing, it goes on the public hearing portion of the agenda for that ordinance.
For the ordinance.
Correct, specifically for that
That's
ordinance.
upon introduction, that's the
That's the
meeting
sec-
after.
Correct, the second meeting.
So if somebody came in today
They could
and
do that.
wanted to speak as we were discussing introducing this ordinance,
They would have done that.
they
in
would
the
have done that in
very
the first
portion-
part.
Right, because it's on the agenda, public portion is before your agenda, so it's on the agenda, and they could address that.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a public hearing, but to give you the benefit of their thoughts.
So when we made the move to introduce this, we did not invite the public to come forward upon introduction.
Correct.
Right.
They would have had to speak
Before.
in the normal public portion of it.
But when
Or they
Next,
could-
in 2 weeks, then you'll have
Then you
a
have the public
specific
hearing.
public
Specific
hearing
section
for
So
that.
then in 2 weeks, if somebody were to look at the hearing of citizens and come up and say, I have something to say about the solicitor's ordinance, you would say, actually,
No, they
No,
can
please
because
come
it says it.
forward when we actually discuss
Correct,
that particular agenda item.
correct.
And that's what's been done.
Yeah,
And
that's what
not
I,
a change.
yeah,
No.
that's still the same. And-
No, Mr. Mayor, and
Sure.
with the way this is written, in a situation like that, where if someone wanted to talk about the matter that was up for introduction, they'd still be able to speak about that at the second public portion as well. It's just a matter of the first one would be limited to items that are on the agenda, not subject to separate public hearing. So if they wanted to wait until they heard your discussion first, they could still comment after, at that specific meeting.
I do find it interesting, in my years of sitting on the planning board, that, that committee chair Nicole Hagner would say, you know, this is not a meeting for public hearing, but since there are meetings of the members of the public, you know, we do always want to hear what you have to say. So, you know, there has always been a bit of flexibility. That's the one thing that I think we could all argue, we really don't want to completely hamstring ourselves.
But I don't think you do that.
Right.
That procedure followed by the planning board is similar to what you're doing here. When the planning board has a hearing, or the Board of Adjustment has a hearing, it opens it specifically on that hearing. Then there's a comment period for general comments.
Okay.
On that application or anything else. But
Or
if
anything
you're
else.
if you're having a hearing on an application, the comments should be made during
that time.
application.
So public will have an opportunity, and they have an opportunity as of today to speak about everything, but not anytime they want. So obviously, if there's an ordinance introduction, either before or after, if that's an ordinance adoption, during that particular adoption process, the first thing that we open to the public, they speak about. So they have opportunity to speak about everything on the agenda. But the question is the timing. So which one comes first? So I think that's
I'm for
just the preference.
5 minutes per speaker, but no time limit on the body of speakers.
That's fine.
That's what I,
As
that's
it's
what.
written.
Okay.
As written.
Well,
But that doesn't
And
address.
what about the other comment that do we want public to come up at the first section for public hearing? Do we want them to only talk about things on the agenda, or they can talk about anything? So that, I think, is the second question we have to answer. And
I say you
among
talk
ourselves.
about whatever's on your mind, because there's some people who might be coming here with young children who have to be at home or whatever, and they can't stick around until we're hitting their second hearing of citizens right now, and it's 9:05.
Okay,
And
so
that's
you-
on a quick agenda, it seems, so to speak, tonight. I
So
mean, there's some
you're saying
things-
anything, they can talk about anything. What do you think?
Free
Okay.
game.
Yeah, I'm
Same
part
thing.
of that, really.
All right,
I agree.
If they've
All right.
taken the time to
All
come
right.
here,
So-
why hamstring?
all right. So then I think we're gonna remove that.
If I may ask
Sure.
Mr. Kelly to just repeat that.
repeat that, okay? In section 3, hearing of citizens, subsection A, we will take out the words "on the agenda" in the second line, so that it reads, during the first public portion on the agenda, speakers may comment upon items that are not the subject of a separate public hearing scheduled for that meeting. Speakers may comment for up to 5 minutes on topics, and then take out again the words "on the agenda," period.
Well, it would be a period after 5 minutes.
That's
Speakers may speak for up to
Five
5
minutes,
minutes.
period.
Take out the rest of that.
Speakers may speak once and may not yield their time to another speaker. And now in subsection C, in the second line, we would take out the words including agenda items. So it would just read, during the second public comment period, speakers may comment upon any topic for the good and general welfare of the Township of Chatham. Speakers may comment for up to 5 minutes, period. So again, you're taking out the repetitious words on any topic for the good and general welfare of the township the second time. And then we again say speakers may speak only once and may not yield their time to another speaker.
All right, so,
The clerk has noted those changes. The clerk has noted those changes. If there are no other changes, and it's the pleasure of the committee to adopt, really you're re-adopting all your bylaws, but with specific emphasis on the changes to Article 4, Section 3.
Can I just be clear that a single person can speak in both portions?
Yes,
Yes.
it's repetitive speakers in one portion. So as Mr. Ritter said, it is try to encourage a person to come, speak in a cogent manner, comprehensive on that topic, and not, try to, as the thought comes, get up again.
Get up again.
Right.
But they do have front and back
But they
opportunity.
would have a first public session and then a second at the end.
Greg?
No, that's to prevent situations where someone gets up 2, 3, 4 times during one public
And
hearing.
another thing.
Yeah,
And another thing.
I like number D, that's never really been amplified in the past. Maybe we should think about that going forward when we do have the big queue, residents first before non-residents.
But it's in there, so
It's
that's.
in there.
that's-
I know, but we've
that's
never
part-
really talked it. I'm not wondering if we never really
we never enforced.
enforced it, so to speak, or encouraged it, or
Okay.
reminded folks.
And, there was one other change in this draft that I'd like to bring to the committee's attention. Under Article 4, Order of Business, Section 1, number 4 was added just as an as necessary sort of thing, a moment of silent reflection, and that could be, in situations where if there's a national tragedy or, for example, when Alice Lunt passed, there was a moment of silence, and this formally adds that as an option. It's something that's always been done. It just, spells out that it's
Sure. We have done it too.
option.
Okay.
Okay.
So
An
we
opening
actually
prayer.
can take action today, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So let's take action. So, do I
So
have?
moved as amended?
Okay, perfect.
Second.
And any discussions, any further discussions? I wouldn't think so. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Ritter?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Selin?
Yes,
Thank you. Motion passes.
great. 5-0, okay. So, now we're done with those two discussion items and hearing of citizens. Now, public may come forward and speak up to 5 minutes.
Now 5 minutes.
Just extend it. Kara, come on, we need to try this.
You can be the first.
We'll give you coffee.
We've got your street paved.
All right, excellent. So there's no one would like to come forward. Then we have the executive session, and we have a resolution, 2019 P-07. Greg, would you like to, or you need, give me a minute?
Resolution 2019-P-07, resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham and the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, authorizing conference of the Township Committee with the public excluded. Whereas NJSA 10:4-12 of the Open Public Meetings Act permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of the specified subject matter. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Litigation in the matter of the Township of Chatham for a judgment of compliance of its third round housing element and fair share plan, docket number MRS-L-1659-15, collective bargaining agreements, and potential litigation, property maintenance. It is anticipated that the minutes on the subject matter of the executive session will be made public upon conclusion of the matter under discussion, and in any event when appropriate pursuant to NJSA 10:4-7 and 4-13. The committee will come back into regular session and may take further action. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
All right, so do I have a motion to?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Ness?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes?
Mr. Ritter?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Slin?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Let me go to the restroom for a second.
Thank you.